Welcome back to Chrome and Classics, the channel where we bring forgotten automotive legends back to life. From rusted out relics to neglected exotics, we take on the toughest restorations and turn them into showroom-worthy masterpieces. Today, we're diving into something truly special, a 2004 Bentley Continental GT. This was Bentley's first modern-era Grand Tour, blending high performance with uncompromising luxury. But after 20 years of wear and neglect, this one is far from the opulent cruiser it once was. Let's bring it back to life. Assessing the damage, the brutal reality Bentley, a name that carries prestige, performance, and luxury in perfect harmony. But when I first laid eyes on this 2004 Bentley Continental GT, prestige was the last thing that came to mind. Sitting under a layer of dust, its once glorious Moonbeam Silver paint was now faded, its interior reeking of neglect, and its 6.0-liter twin-turbo W12 refusing to roar to life. Most would have walked away, but I saw the potential. This Bentley had stories to tell, and I was determined to bring it back to its former grandeur. Before tearing into the project, I needed to understand just how deep the damage went. The first issue? The electronics. The early Continental GT models were notorious for electrical gremlins, and this one was no exception. The infotainment system was dead. Multiple warning lights flickered on the dash, and even the windows refused to roll down. A deep dive diagnostic revealed several corroded control modules, most likely from water damage, an expensive but fixable problem. Next was the engine. Turning the key resulted in a sluggish crank, then nothing. A dead battery was the obvious culprit, but after replacing it, the car still refused to start. Digging further, I found a bad fuel pump, failing ignition coils, and worst of all, carbon buildup choking the W12's breath. Years of neglect had taken their toll, but with the right approach, I could breathe life back into this powerhouse. Stripping it down. Where the real work begins. With the assessment complete, it was time to strip the Bentley down to its bare bones. I started with the interior, removing the worn-out leather seats, peeling door panels, and the faded dashboard trim. Bentley's craftsmanship is top tier, but after 2 decades of sun exposure and improper care, the interior looked more like an abandoned lounge than a luxury cockpit. The plan? Reupholster everything in OEM-style Beluga black leather with diamond stitching, restore the wood veneers, and refinish the aluminum trim. Underneath the car, things weren't much better. The air suspension was completely shot, with one of the front struts leaking so badly it looked like an old water balloon ready to burst. This wasn't just a cosmetic issue, it was a safety hazard. Rather than trying to salvage the tired air struts, I opted for a brand new set of Arnott air suspension components, which would bring the car back to its buttery smooth ride. Reviving the heart, the 6.0-liter twin-turbo W12. The W12 engine is what makes this car special, but restoring it was no easy feat. Bentley engines are built with extreme precision, and any mistake could turn this project into a financial nightmare. The first order of business was tackling the carbon buildup, a common issue in these direct injection engines. I carefully removed the intake manifold, revealing a thick layer of deposits clogging the intake ports. A walnut blasting treatment cleaned them up, restoring airflow and throttle response. Next, I replaced the fuel pump, ignition coils, and spark plugs to eliminate the starting issues. The twin KKK turbochargers were another concern. While they weren't completely blown, they had noticeable oil seepage. Rather than risking future failure, I rebuilt them with new seals and bearings, ensuring they could still deliver that smooth wave of power Bentley is known for. Finally, I performed a full cooling system flush, replacing the aged coolant hoses and thermostat. With everything bolted back together, it was time for the moment of truth. The key turned, the starter clicked, and then a deep, refined growl filled the garage. The W12 was alive again, resurrecting the exterior. From faded to flawless. With the mechanical work sorted, it was time to restore the car's presence. The original Moonbeam Silver paint was faded and covered in scratches, but rather than repainting it completely, I went for a multi-stage paint correction. Using a combination of cutting compounds and ceramic polish, I managed to revive the deep metallic flake, bringing back the showroom shine. The wheels, however, were beyond saving. The once gorgeous 19-inch split-spoke alloys were now pitted and curb-rashed beyond recognition. A fresh set of OEM-style Bentley wheels in gloss black brought a modern contrast to the silver body, making the car look even more menacing. To finish off the exterior, I replaced the fogged-up headlights, restored the chrome trim, and detailed every inch of the car. The difference was staggering. What was once a forgotten shell now stood as a rolling piece of art. The interior, a luxurious rebirth. No Bentley restoration is complete without bringing its interior back to its opulent best. The seats, now reupholstered in Beluga black leather with Mulliner diamond stitching, looked even better than they did when new. I restored the burl wood veneers to a mirror-like finish, replaced the worn-out carpeting, and installed a modernized infotainment system while keeping the classic Bentley aesthetics intact. Every switch, every button, every dial was either restored or replaced to match the original factory quality. Sitting inside, the cabin felt like a true sanctuary of luxury once again. The first drive. A Bentley Reborn. With every bolt tightened and every detail perfected, it was finally time to take this Bentley back on the road. The first few miles were all about relearning the car, listening for odd noises, checking for leaks, and making sure everything was functioning as it should. But once I was confident in the work, I let it loose. The W12 surged forward effortlessly, the twin turbos spooling up with a whisper, delivering a tidal wave of torque that pinned me back into the freshly restored leather seats. The new air suspension floated over the pavement like a cloud, yet remained planted and firm through the turns. This wasn't just a car, it was an experience, a perfect blend of power, refinement, and craftsmanship. Final thoughts. Was it worth it? Restoring a Bentley Continental GT isn't for the faint of heart. The parts are expensive, the labor is meticulous, and the smallest mistakes can cost thousands. But standing next to this completed project, hearing that deep W12 hum, and feeling the weight of the steering wheel in my hands, there was no doubt in my mind. It was worth every second. This Bentley wasn't just saved, it was reborn. And now it's ready to turn heads for another 2 decades.